Hey everybody, what is going on? This is Anthony with the VR Game Rankings YouTube channel, and you guys are tuned in to the daily vlog series. It is a brand new week. Today is Monday. It's April 2nd. This is episode 131, and there is a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, Skyrim VR is going to be available a little bit later today, and people are already preloading it. And if you bought your game, if you bought Skyrim VR via Green Man Gaming to get that 20% discount, be sure to check your email because the codes have been arriving since earlier this morning. A lot of people didn't get their codes yet, but now they're getting their codes. And so a lot of us are going to be knee deep in Skyrim VR later today. So that is incredibly exciting. And then tomorrow we've got a number of releases. You got Crisis on the Planet of the Apes. You got Island Time VR. So there is a lot of good stuff going on. But let's go ahead and get into the stories that we have for you. Now, before we get into our actual stories, I do have a correction to make in regards to Wipeout VR. And I've started the last two shows with Wipeout VR, and I'm starting this show with Wipeout VR. And I know there's probably a number of you guys that are a bit sick of Wipeout VR by now, and I completely understand that. I just want to get this correction out there just because you put out bad information. It's not a good situation. Everybody thinks you're completely off the mark. And it's like, man, I said the wrong thing. Let me correct that. Okay, so what am I talking about? Back on Thursday's episode, when I was ranting and raving about Wipeout VR, one of the things I said, I was trying to think of a complaint that I had or like one problem that the game had. And one of the things that I talked about was that there are certain tracks where it puts the blinders on and there's no way to get the blinders off. Well, that is completely wrong. That is not the case. There is no track that you cannot remove the blinders. You can remove the blinders on any track. What happened was that very first night that I was playing Wipeout Omega Collection VR, I got to a track, I don't know if it was like Moa Therma or something like that. I forget what the name of the track was, but when I got to that track, a message did pop onto the screen saying something about motion sickness, blah, blah, blah. And I read like a couple of words of it, and then I hit the X button or something, and I just kind of assumed that, well, what happened is I hit the X button and then I got into the game and the blinders were up. And previous to that, I had turned the blinders off. So I thought, oh, maybe there's certain tracks they force the blinders on. But no, that's not the case. I could have easily just paused the game and deselected the blinders. And so I figured this out the very next day. Why I didn't mention it on Friday, I have no idea, but it's something that I haven't mentioned. And just to let people know, you can race every single track with the blinders completely off. And another thing that I said in that episode, I said they're probably doing this for a very good reason, because it would probably be Barf City on certain of these tracks where you're just going, zoom, you're going way up or you're going way down. And I thought, oh, they're probably doing this on purpose for a very good reason. No, you can pretty much race every track in Wipeout, and it isn't Barf City. I've been able to do it perfectly fine and haven't had any problems. Honestly, the only thing that has made me feel a little bit queasy is sometimes when the race is over and you're actually in the replay mode, I've noticed that sometimes when I'm in the replay mode, if I start looking at trackside objects as it's moving quickly along and I'm looking at something and it's moving quickly, it can make me feel a little bit weird for a second there. But that's really the only motion sickness I've had with this game whatsoever. So there's no complaint about Wipeout VR, period. My only complaint about the game is the same exact complaint that I had for Fallout 4 VR last December when that came out. My complaint is I can't stop thinking about the game. It's all I want to play. I can't think about anything else, and I can't afford to be like this. This is not the daily Wipeout VR log series. This is the daily vlog series for VR game rankings. We have to cover all the VR games. Tomorrow is Crisis on the Planet of the Apes. Tomorrow is Island Time VR. We got Skyrim VR coming tonight. I have to move on to other games, and that's really the only problem with Wipeout VR. But let's go ahead and get into our first regular story of the day. And the first regular story of the day is Ready Player One. And so I'm not going to get into like spoiler talk or anything about this. If you guys want that, actually go to VR Roundtable. A brand new episode has been released today where we cover Ready Player One at the very beginning of the show, non-spoiler. And then at the very end of the show, we get into a little bit of spoiler talk as well. And so you can hear my thoughts about that on the VR Roundtable episode. What I'm actually covering here is that Ready Player One had a pretty solid opening weekend with $53.2 million brought in over the 4-day Easter weekend. It did take the #1 spot. Tyler Perry's Acrimony came in second place with 17 million, and Black Panther was third with 11.3 million. So it was a good debut for Ready Player One. I don't know that, the 53.2 million, I don't know that that meets all their, meets and surpasses all their expectations. Maybe they were hoping for an $80 million weekend. Who knows? I'm not really into the box office thing, but it's still, they were #1. They did well. There is a hype factor that's going on with Ready Player One, so it's doing pretty good. And one other nice little factoid about this movie is that Ready Player One has drawn the most positive audience response for any Spielberg-directed fantasy or sci-fi movie since Minority Report back in 2005. And some of us might even make the argument that Minority Report back in 2005 is the best that's the last good Steven Spielberg movie. We haven't really had a very good Steven Spielberg movie since Minority Report. And then the other movie I'll mention too is AI, Artificial Intelligence. That was 2001. I know that movie was not popular with critics. A lot of people hated it. A lot of people didn't understand it. The movie dragged on really long, and it got really dark and really weird at the very end of that movie. But I actually really like Artificial Intelligence. I think it is weird and it is dark, and I kind of liked it for that. But yeah, those Minority Report and Artificial Intelligence, those are probably the last two really good Spielberg movies since Ready Player One. And so now we have another good one from Spielberg in the sci-fi fantasy type category. Okay, let's go to story number 3. Story number 3, Oculus Rift has increased its lead over the HTC Vive in the March Steam VR survey. And so this is something that we get every single month. We are, of course, at the beginning of a brand new month, and with that comes Steam's hardware survey that they do every time. And part of it is taking a look at what VR headsets are connected and what is the percentage there. And so the Rift last month, it passed the HTC Vive for the very first time, but it was incredibly close. It was a photo finish. It was neck and neck. Now they've increased their lead a little bit, so they are up to 48.92%, while Vive is at 44.06%. And mixed reality is coming in. The Windows mixed reality headsets are coming in third with 5.32%. And like I said last month in regards to Oculus passing, this isn't really any big surprise. This isn't a fanboy war rallying cry really either. This is kind of much ado about nothing, but it's something we report on. But this is kind of expected. Oculus has a better price point. Now, of course, Vive, they have lowered their price. Their price is now at the lowest point it's ever been with the $499 package. So, but that happened relatively late in the game. So maybe next month we'll see Vive closing that gap a little bit. Maybe not. I don't know, but it's not that big of a deal. Honestly, if there's anything really surprising about any of these numbers, I would say that the Windows mixed reality is still below 6%. I thought it would kind of gain a little bit of a bump because these Windows mixed reality headsets, every once in a while, you can go to Amazon and you can get one of these mixed reality headsets for dirt cheap. And Costco has also had sales They've had, I think it might have been the Lenovo. Costco had that for $200 straight up, but it sold out within hours. But that's happened a couple of times. I think if there was more of an awareness out there at how cheap some of these Windows mixed reality headsets are, I think it would actually do quite a bit better, and it would bump up its percentage and maybe get to 6 or 7 or 8% and kind of bump it up a little bit there. But that hasn't happened so far. It's kind of a well-kept secret, actually. Those of us that are really into the VR thing, we've heard about these fire sales, but a lot of your average Joe Schmoes out there haven't heard too much about that. Okay, let's go to story number 4. Story number 4, this is some really good news. Okay, so you guys may have heard me talk about this a long time ago. There's a game called 2MD VR Football. Now, this game, of course, was brought to us by Truant Pixel, and it hit the HTC Vive and it hit the Oculus Rift. And I'm trying to remember back when this game came out. I think it was last year. But when this game came out, it kind of came out of nowhere, and it really was a fan favorite. I really fell in love with this game. Of course, I am a self-admitted American football fan. I watch NFL football. Not much of a sports junkie, but if I am, it is NFL football. I love football video games. I've played them all my life, all the various John Madden games, the Tecmo Bowl games way back in the days, NFL Blitz, you know, all the different football games that have ever come out, NFL Game Day back in the PlayStation era. I've played a ton of football games, and I've always kind of wondered, when are we going to get some American football games in VR? And Truant Pixel, they basically brought us the first legitimate VR football game called 2MD VR Football. Well, this game is coming to PlayStation VR sometime this spring. Now, we don't have an exact release date. We don't have an exact price for this game, but this is good news. And I think that this game is going to resonate very well with the PlayStation VR audience, because I think when you think about the console gaming audience, they are a bit more into stuff like football. So a John Madden game is going to perform better and sell better on consoles. In fact, they don't have John Madden football games. They don't have a PC version. It's kind of bizarre that they don't, but it's maybe because the audience on console is just a better audience for that. So I do believe that 2MD VR Football, if it plays as good as the Vive and the Rift version, it is just a very fun game, incredibly colorful, an amazing atmosphere and vibe. I can remember being in that game. It feels like a sunny Saturday. You're in a what appears to be like a college football stadium. You know, it's like the Michigan Wolverines against the Ohio State Buckeyes. And there's no real logos, and everything is incredibly cartoony, but it just has a great feel. It feels good. It's fun. You throw a touchdown pass and you're like, yeah, you know, you feel so good. It just gives you that good feeling. And so 2MD VR Football has always been one of my favorites. So it's definitely good to see this game coming to PlayStation VR. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next story. The next story, Road to VR, has around 4 minutes of off-screen footage for Creed Rise to Glory. So we, of course, heard a little while back that Survios is coming out with a boxing game called Creed Rise to Glory. I've covered the game a number of times here, but we still don't have an actual legitimate trailer for this game. But what we do have is you can go over to Road to VR, go ahead and visit their website. They have a story about this. They do have a YouTube video. And the nice thing about it is, even though it's off-camera footage, it's kind of showing a TV screen that basically is showing the game on it. You can still get a very good idea for what this game is going to look like, what this game is going to feel like. What I could see from some of the off-camera footage is you see Rocky Balboa, you see Sylvester Stallone. They make a character model that looks incredibly similar to Sylvester Stallone. Now, whether or not they have his actual real voice for this game or not, that remains to be seen. although I'm sure they can get somebody that does a very good job of impersonating that voice, so it probably won't matter too much. But you can see he's kind of your coach. He kind of takes you through the training mode and that sort of thing. And then you get into an actual real boxing match. And this is the part I'm interested in, because one of the things that I'm hoping for with this game, Creed Rise to Glory, is I'm hoping that the atmosphere really feels like a heavyweight fight. You know, like you're in the Madison Square Garden, or you're outside the Bellagio in Las Vegas, you know, Caesar's Palace or whatever, and there's this huge boxing match. And just the atmosphere of being in a boxing ring, and you know, the crowd and the flash bulbs going off everywhere, and people yelling and screaming, and the referee and just all of that. That's really what I'm interested in with this game. I hope they really capture that and dial that in. And then the other thing that you can kind of notice with this video here is that it shows the actual guy playing the game that's inside a replica of a boxing ring. And boy, this game sure looks like a workout. I mean, this is what I like to call an accidental exercise game. We got a lot of games like this in VR: Sprint Vector, Virtual Reality Football Club, Cyberpunk VR. There's all kinds of games in VR, Hollow Ball, all kinds of games where the game is incredibly fun, but you're going to burn some calories. You're going to get a little bit of a workout. You're going to get a little bit sweaty. And some people might say, well, this isn't legitimate exercise. But what I say is anything that gets your butt up off of the couch and gets you moving around a little bit, it's all good. You know, a lot of us just don't get enough exercise as it is. And so anything that kind of gets us moving around, I think, is a good thing. So this is another one of these accidental exercise games. Although it doesn't look too accidental. It looks like the exercise is definitely there, but it does look pretty good. We're looking forward to this. Unfortunately, it is kind of coming later this year, probably to be coinciding with the release of the second Creed movie. So we might have to wait a little while to get our hands on Creed Rise to Glory. Okay, and then the last story, I have two more quick stories for you. Zombie Riot is 99 cents on the Oculus store. Now, this is not an incredibly outstanding wave shooter game. It's kind of another wave shooter. We've got a million of them. You know, we got them coming out of our ears, but it is very colorful, and this thing is only 99 cents. The regular price on this game is 20 bucks. This is like 95% off or whatever, 98% off, you know, whatever it is. It is a huge major discount, 99 cents. I mean, you got more than 99 cents floating around in your sofa cushion. So the way I kind of look at this is like one of those rainy day games. Go ahead and buy this game for 99 cents. Forget all about it. And then when there's a certain day where it's like, man, there's nothing to play, I kind of want to play something new. Oh yeah, I got that game Zombie Riot. Let me fire that up and have a little afternoon of fun with Zombie Riot. That's the kind of game it is. Nothing that's going to hold you down for weeks or months or anything like that. But, you know, an engaging afternoon of entertainment. That's the way I see Zombie Riot. And for 99 cents, hard to beat that. And then the final story that we have for you today is Windows mixed reality headsets are getting their own version, basically, of asynchronous space warp. And this is something that some people are talking about on the HTC Vive subreddits. And they're kind of talking about this in a complaint saying, this isn't fair. Why are Windows mixed reality people getting asynchronous space warp before us Vive players? Us Vive players have been asking for this for a couple of years now. You know, what is going on, Valve? Why aren't you helping out with this? Well, the thing that we have to clarify with this is, first of all, this is for a beta version of Steam VR. This is an experimental version, so you got to understand that. Also, it does require you absolutely have to have a 1060, a 1070, a 1080, or better NVIDIA GeForce video card. So if you have an AMD video card, or if you have an older NVIDIA video card, you're out of luck. This is not going to work. So this doesn't work for everybody. It is an experimental thing. It is a beta thing. They're just trying this out. And I think there's something to do with the Open VR that Microsoft has written for the Windows mixed reality headsets might make this more easy to execute than it would be on the Vive. And so that's why a lot of Vive people are complaining, why don't we have asynchronous space warp? I'm sure that Valve is working on that at some point. It will come down the line, but right now it's in a beta version for mixed reality owners. So if you happen to be a mixed reality owner and you do have a 1060 or better, opt into this beta, check it out. Tell us how it works. If there's been a particular game that is giving you some trouble, try the game now in this experimental mode and see, does it really improve things for you? That would be interesting to find out. But anyway, guys, that's going to go ahead and do it for today's show. It, of course, has been Monday. It is April 2nd, and this was episode 131 of the show. I will see everybody tomorrow on Tuesday. Remember, download Skyrim later tonight. Remember, we got Crisis of the Planet of the Apes and Island Time VR coming out tomorrow as well. So look forward to that. I will see everybody tomorrow. Take it easy. Later.